Okay, this poem, it's more like a public service announcement. You'll see why, and because today is Mother's Day. It's called We Were Not Told. Please take care of your mother better than I did mine. Under the dull, humming fluorescence of my office at Duke University, I finally create a MyChart login for my mother. She'd only been asking me for 3 or 4 months now. Something unseen but urgently felt prompts me to open an X-ray file from over 1 year ago that should have belonged to the past. Something already settled like silt at the bottom of a quiet body of water. But instead it rose all at once in language so plain it almost disguised its violence. Large mass in left lung. It did not arrive like a shoreline easing into itself. It did not come in soft increments, the way the tide teaches you it will. Instead, 14 months later, the image pulled me like a sudden undertow, absolute, dragging me into a muddy depth where I still now struggle for breath. Because of this, the memory of Glenda, my mother, does not arrive gently. It declares itself, saturates the air, bold as cad-red medium spread across fresh white gesso. Something insistent, arterial, a color that refuses to be mistaken for anything but itself. Please take care of your mother better than I did mine. She graduated from high school, voted the most attractive young woman in her class, such were those days, but all she cared about was being treated like a serious actor. Her closest friend, Buddy, was gay and moved through hallways already marked, already warned. His softness read as a threat, his truth treated like a bruise the world kept pressing. And my mother, my fierce, radiant mother, placed herself between him and that tangible violence again and again, fending off physical blows meant for Buddy. When he called her from Brown University saying, "Come get me, please take me away from this place that does not know how to hold me," she did not hesitate. We queer people spend a good portion of our lives in places that do not know how to hold us. And so they fled, not delicately, not with permission, but with the velocity of need, to Greenwich Village, into a small apartment that could barely contain their bodies, but somehow held their becoming. There my mother made herself in the language of the unsanctioned, in the low-lit pulse of Berkeley and Jazz Club, in poetry that did not ask to be understood, only felt, in the restless rehearsal rooms of off Broadway. She lived like a sentence still being written, unfinished, unruly, a body in conversation with the Beat Generation, where freedom was not a metaphor, but a daily deliberate act of disobedience. And when she returned to Connecticut, called back not by regret, but by obligation, by the slow terminal illness of a father she loved, she carried that world with her, back into small-town New England, folded into the ordinary like contraband, a subscription to the Village Voice, a friendship with Cookie, a black man, a gay man, a man who laughed like the world had not yet convinced him to be quiet. And for these, for the simple audacity of refusing to shrink, the town, small in both geography and imagination, reached for its oldest language of fear and called her a communist, as if freedom itself were a crime. When my mother married into a huge Italian family, she knew the cultural divide would be difficult to mend. The Leones weren't warm, fuzzy Italians, the ones so often depicted in films, wearing gold chains and always hugging. The Leones were stiff, unforgiving, austerely dressed, without jewelry. The only signs of Italian heritage were opera music always playing in the background and homemade pasta. My mother chose a plain church, small enough that even God had to lean in to listen. She wore a tweed suit instead of a wedding gown. She wanted something smart, something that wouldn't float away, and no wedding party. For the Italians, this was cardiac. No grand hall, no chandeliers trembling with light, just sandwiches placed on her brother's kitchen table, paper plates bending under the weight of the simplicity, another arrhythmia for the Italians. The wedding band circling their ring fingers soon placed in a drawer. No public decoration, just trust without ornamentation. And somewhere, a chorus of my father's Italian ancestors clutched their rosary beads, whispering, "Heresy," as if love stripped pure like this might stop the heart entirely. My Italian grandmother knew only 3 words of English. Irish, no good. She always glared at my mother while saying it. I didn't like her for that. I thought she was a terrible, miserable old lady. I was proud of my Irish ancestry, and my great-grandmother from County Sligo had a name that held her passionate DNA, Agnes Fury. My mother carried that same fierce, soulful Irishness that lived inside Agnes. She was the kind of woman who moved through the world not carefully but fully, with her whole heart exposed and glowing, and because of that, she gave me a childhood that felt alive in every corner. Ours was the house where everyone gathered after school, the backyard loud with laughter and stories told too dramatically because my mother had a way of making people feel chosen when they sat beside her. Kids gravitated toward her, warmed instinctively toward the life force in her, and I did too. Never imagining that a woman so vibrant, so deeply inhabited by her own spirit, could one day sit in an emergency room trying to explain pain that no one seemed willing to truly hear. Please take care of your mother better than I did mine. 4 times in the emergency room, chest pain, over the course of a year, February, June, November, February again. And each time we moved through the same choreography. Questions, the ID bracelet, no prior health issues. And each time, after chest x-rays and EKGs were given something small in return, a muscle pull, a dismissal with reassurance. Take the muscle relaxants. Authorities stood there in white coats like a lighthouse you are not supposed to question, even when the light is dim, or flickering, or gone entirely. Her healthcare regimen was fastidious. She punctuated these ER visits with regular primary care checkups. Muscle pull, muscle pull, muscle pull, muscle pull. My mother asked me to create a MyChart login for her because she didn't have internet nor a laptop. Yes, I'll get to it. I'm busy right now. Sara, I don't mean to bother you, but could you please create a MyChart login? She had to ask me repeatedly. Please take care of your mother better than I did mine. The truth was already there, already visible, already fixed in the still frame of an image taken over a year before. Something quiet in grayscale, like a storm forming far out that no one bothers to track. No one thinks will reach the shore a mass large enough to measure, large enough to document, large enough to follow as it grew from visit to visit, like something that required its own kind of maintenance, not in the body, but in the record, in the careful procedural act of seeing without saying, of noting without naming, aloud, of allowing something irreversible to continue because no one interrupted it. And we were not told, until the moment that feels almost absurd in its simplicity, when my mother, still trusting, still believing in the structure that had already failed her, asked me one last time to set up a MyChart account, and I finally did. I was prompted to look back to the first x-ray from the first ER visit over 1 year previous. Large mass in left lung. I clicked on the next x-ray from the second visit. Large mass in left lung growing, looks like malignancy. The third visit. Large mass in left lung has broken through chest cavity. And there it was, not coded, not even softened, just sitting there with a kind of clinical indifference that feels cruel in retrospect. A large mass in the lung, present from the first image, growing steadily, documented with the kind of precision that belongs to systems that record everything and still choose what to say out loud. And I remember how the room seemed to thicken around me, how time did not stop so much as it staggered, as if it had been operating under the wrong assumption. We were told over and over again, it's just a muscle pull, a muscle pull, a muscle pull. And in that moment, something in me shifts because suddenly I am no longer asking politely within the structure that had already proven itself grossly erroneous and unreliable, but insisting, demanding with a voice that feels pulled from somewhere deeper, somewhere that has always known that survival does not come from compliance. And we return not as participants in care now, but as witnesses to something that has already been allowed to become what it was becoming all along. My mother was dead within 6 months. And I am left here holding the unbearable clarity that this ending was not something that emerged inevitably from her body alone, but something that was permitted, something that was allowed to continue uninterrupted over a year in the space between what was seen and what was said. The pulmonary cancer specialist raged that if the mass had been caught with the first image, it would have been highly curable. The body spoke, and the image showed, and the record kept everything exactly as it happened, steady and precise, like tide charts that never lie about the movement of water, yet still, somehow, no one told us. My mother died from medical malpractice. Please take care of your mother better than I did mine.
Yeah.